Could you please take the next elevator? I'd really prefer to ride alone.
Ride alone? The elevator is empty. Why can't I step in?
I just want some space. It's been a stressful morning.
This is a public elevator. Why can't I share it? Is it because I'm black?
The lobby was buzzing with morning traffic. Phones ringing, coffee carts whirring, heels clicking sharply on marble floors. The smell of roasted coffee beans mixed with the faint tang of polished stone, creating that unmistakable downtown morning tension. He walked toward the elevator, calm, professional, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit perfectly, shoes polished to a mirror shine. He moved with purpose, checking a note on his phone, unaware he was about to be confronted. She stepped forward, raised her hand, and slammed the closed door button hard. Her eyes didn't just signal wait. They said, "You're not welcome here." Her voice was polite, almost soft, but behind it lurked contempt. He paused, blinked, and finally looked up. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. Then he spoke, quiet, controlled. "Excuse me, is there a reason I can't ride this elevator?" She didn't hesitate. She pressed the close button again, faster this time, like she could physically erase his presence. "I just prefer to ride alone," she said, her tone light, rehearsed. "It's been a long morning." Before we go any further, comment where in the world you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's event is one you don't want to miss. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took a breath, letting her words sink in and let the tension grow. He could have raised his voice, called security, made a scene. But that wasn't his way. He had seen this countless times before, in countless variations, and he knew how to read people. "Is the consideration," he asked, calm but piercing, "because of my skin?" The lobby fell silent in that moment. Not everyone heard the words, but the security camera high in the corner recorded everything. And while she didn't answer, her body language did. Shoulders stiff, eyes avoiding his gaze, fingers lingering on the control panel like she could erase her actions. She thought she had power in that moment. She thought she had won a small battle. What she didn't realize was that the man she had just humiliated was the one holding the lease to her office, the one deciding the future of her company, and the one who could end her career without raising his voice. This was the tension that hung over the Sterling Tower every morning. Luxury, ambition, and invisible power playing out in hallways and elevators. The building itself seemed to recognize it, all steel and glass, polished marble floors reflecting the lives of everyone inside. And this particular Tuesday morning, it had become the stage for a confrontation that would ripple far beyond a single elevator ride. She was Anna Mercer, 42, senior associate at Linton & Gray Consulting. She had been at the firm for nearly a decade, climbing her way through client relations and department politics, learning the subtle art of influence and control. Today, she was focused, determined to impress during a critical meeting about expanding her team's footprint in the building. She had prepared talking points, charts, and projections. She had rehearsed every sentence she would deliver in front of the board. He was Marcus Ellery, 45, self-made real estate developer and owner of the Sterling Tower. Marcus hadn't inherited anything. Every floor, every corner of the building was a testament to his ambition, grit, and vision. He had started with nothing, worked through school, taken risks that could have bankrupted him, and built the tower from scratch. Every morning, he arrived early, walking the floors, greeting the staff, checking details that most people would consider trivial. He greeted the doorman, Marcus, with a nod, asked about his daughter's college plans. He paused at the security desk, complimented Teresa on her new glasses. He smiled at Paulo at the coffee cart, asking about last night's basketball game. Everyone knew Marcus. Everyone respected him. Not because of his title, but because of the way he treated people. And yet, in that moment, none of that mattered to Anna. All she saw was a man approaching the elevator, a man she didn't want to share space with. The first interaction had already set the tone. She had raised her hand, he had stopped, she had pressed the close button repeatedly. She had created a microcosm of power and prejudice, and she had no idea how it would unfold. Marcus simply stepped back, waited a second, then moved toward the next elevator, leaving her to her sense of control. The tension in the lobby didn't dissipate, it lingered like a heavy fog. Other tenants glanced over, sensing something was off. Whispers traveled across the polished marble. The atmosphere was charged with something unspoken: respect, arrogance, and the consequences that follow when the two collide. Anna pressed the elevator button for the 42nd floor and rehearsed her opening lines again, smoothing her blazer and taking a deep breath. She was focused on performance, on her speech, on her own stress, but not on what really mattered. She didn't see the lesson being delivered right in front of her. Marcus, in his next elevator, allowed himself a small, controlled smile. He knew exactly where she worked. He knew exactly which meeting she was attending. And he knew how quickly arrogance and bias could destroy opportunity when you misjudge someone's position in the world. By 9:15 a.m., the tension set in. The day had only just begun, and Anna's morning actions had already set the trajectory for consequences she could never have imagined. Every step in the building, every glance, every decision now carried weight. This wasn't just an elevator. It wasn't just a conversation. It was a test of character, a revelation of values, and a quiet lesson in respect, one that would echo far beyond the polished floors of Sterling Tower. Because in this building, as in life, how you treat people when you think it doesn't matter is often when it matters the most. The elevator dinged, doors sliding open with a soft, metallic whisper. Anna Mercer took a deep breath, pressing the button for the 42nd floor. She leaned back against the mirrored wall, trying to erase the memory of the man she had just blocked. Her hands smoothed her blazer, her fingers brushing over the paper she clutched. She told herself it was just an awkward encounter. Her personal space had been compromised. Nothing more. She didn't see the cameras up above, didn't notice the small red light blinking silently, recording every movement, every micro-expression. Nor did she know that Marcus Ellery, the man she refused entry to, was already stepping into another elevator just 30 feet away, reviewing notes for the very meeting she was about to attend. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't get angry. He simply made a choice, a quiet, strategic choice he had perfected over decades. Let people reveal themselves. Let arrogance and bias make themselves obvious. Then, let consequences follow. Anna's elevator ride felt like a lifetime compressed into 42 floors. Each chime marking a passing floor echoed in her mind like a warning she refused to hear. By the time the doors opened on the 42nd floor, she had already rehearsed her opening lines for the meeting. Charts, projections, talking points, all meticulously prepared. But none of that mattered anymore. She stepped out into the polished hallway, the sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the Chicago skyline. The city looked distant, almost irrelevant compared to the immediate pressure of the conference room at the end of the hall. She straightened her blazer one more time, took a deep breath, and pushed the glass door open. Inside, 3 people were already seated. Richard Holloway, the managing partner, looked up with a polite, expectant smile. To his right, Christine Valdez, CFO, shuffled papers, but paused as her eyes flicked toward Anna. And across from them, a man in a charcoal suit sat with his back partially turned. Anna assumed it was Gerald from operations, or maybe someone from legal. She slid into the empty seat, murmuring an apology for being late. That's when the man turned. Marcus Ellery. Anna froze, blood draining from her face. He looked exactly as he had in the lobby, calm, collected, every inch the executive who had built the very floor she stood on. No anger, no gloating, just a steady, piercing gaze that seemed to assess every corner of her character. "We've met," Marcus said softly, his tone measured, deliberate. "Downstairs." The words landed like a hammer. She realized every detail, the elevator, the hand blocking him, the repeated pressing of the close button. Every second had been captured, every gesture noted. The room was silent, but the weight of that silence pressed down on her like the marble floors of the tower itself. Richard Holloway's expression shifted from curiosity to sudden understanding. He glanced at Anna, then at Marcus, realizing instantly what had transpired. The implications were immediate, impossible to ignore. Marcus continued, calm but sharp. "That interaction makes me question the culture of your company. It makes me wonder whether your team respects every individual who walks through these doors, regardless of who they are or what they look like." Anna tried to form words, to explain, to spin the event into something defensible, but her mind went blank. What could she possibly say? That she had personal space issues? That it was just a long morning? None of it mattered. Richard Holloway leaned back, his face tight. He had built Linton and Gray from the ground up. He knew how critical this lease renewal was. He understood immediately that Marcus could have walked out, terminated the contract, and disrupted 3 floors of offices, costing the firm millions. "Anna, you need to leave this meeting immediately and report to HR." The words hit her harder than any blow. She tried to protest, but no sound came out. Legs trembling, she stood, glanced once at Marcus, searching for mercy, any sign that she could undo the elevator mistake. There was none. His gaze remained steady, neutral, unwavering. As she walked out, the hallway stretched endlessly. Her footsteps echoed, each one a reminder of the consequences she had ignored when she decided she was above sharing that elevator. She reached the HR office and waited, 20 minutes that felt like hours until she was called in. The director of human resources didn't waste time. "Miss Mercer?" she began, file open, voice professional but firm. "Your actions constitute a violation of the company's code of conduct. Discrimination, professional behavior, refusing to share an elevator based on race absolutely qualifies." Anna's desk was cleared in 30 minutes. Security escorted her, watching her every movement as she filled a cardboard box with personal items. The polished floors of Sterling Tower never felt so hostile. She had thought she controlled her morning, her career, her environment. In 30 minutes, she had lost all 3. Meanwhile, Marcus returned to his office on the 47th floor, penthouse suite overlooking the city. The office was expansive, all glass and modern art, a testament to what discipline, respect, and vision could build. He didn't take pleasure in her firing. He wasn't vindictive. He simply believed in consequences. The lease was renewed weeks later, but with a sharp reminder. Quarterly diversity and inclusion training would be required for the company. Annual reports, accountability, consequences. The rules were simple. Treat every person with dignity, or face the repercussions. Marcus knew that respect isn't about rank, wealth, or title. It's about recognizing humanity. And Anna Mercer had learned that the hard way, far too late. Anna Mercer sat in the HR waiting area, staring at the polished floor tiles, unable to focus on the buzzing fluorescent lights above. Her hands gripped her bag like it was a lifeline, though she knew it wasn't. Every second in that waiting room replayed the elevator, the hand blocking, the press of the close button, the look in Marcus Ellery's eyes. The door opened and the HR director called her name. Anna rose on shaky legs and stepped inside. The office was sharp and minimal. White walls, sleek desk, a monitor displaying her personnel file. She had been here countless times for routine check-ins, but this was different. The tension was heavier. The stakes weren't just her work anymore. They were everything she had built in 9 years. "Miss Mercer," the director said, voice calm but firm, "your actions this morning are a clear violation of our code of conduct. Discrimination, harassment, professional behavior. You left the elevator incident no room for ambiguity. Refusing to share that space based on race isn't just unethical, it's in direct conflict with the values we uphold in this building." Anna opened her mouth to protest, to explain, but the words came out strangled. It was just personal space. The director's eyes didn't waver. Personal space doesn't justify exclusion. It doesn't excuse prejudice. You've jeopardized the company's reputation, the lease agreement, and the trust of your colleagues and leadership. Effective immediately, your access is revoked and you have 30 minutes to pack your belongings. 30 minutes. That's all it took to undo nearly a decade of effort, of late nights, client lunches, and careful networking. Every email, every presentation, every handshake, it all suddenly felt meaningless. Anna returned to her office, the same polished floor, the same sunlight streaming through the windows, but everything looked different. She moved methodically, each gesture rehearsed, as if this was routine, but the weight of reality pressed down on her. She packed her desk into a cardboard box, items familiar but meaningless now. Picture frames, coffee mugs, awards, tokens of a career evaporating faster than she could comprehend. Down the hall, Marcus Ellery's office overlooked the city like a fortress. Cars looked like toys, people moving like ants below. He didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. His mind wasn't on revenge. He thought about respect, accountability, and the invisible architecture of values that held a building, or a business, together. He had set the tone in the lobby without raising his voice. He had let Anna Mercer reveal her character in a single micro-interaction, and he had allowed natural consequences to follow. That was all it took. Meanwhile, the rest of the Sterling Tower felt the ripple of what had happened. Marcus's daily rounds, the greetings to the doorman, security, coffee staff, they all carried a quiet story of how respect operated in this building. Whispers circulated quickly. The receptionist mentioned it to the office managers. The barista told the regular tenants. Within a week, everyone in the tower knew. The woman who refused to share an elevator with the building owner had lost her job. The impact on Linton and Gray Consulting was immediate. Morale dipped. Leadership scrambled to reassure employees. Weekly meetings included stern reminders about respect, diversity, and inclusion. Marcus's intervention had sparked change beyond a single elevator ride. It had forced a culture audit. Back in the HR office, Anna sat quietly as the director outlined her final paperwork. "You are being terminated for behavior that violates ethical standards and company policy. Your professional references will reflect this decision." The words hit like ice water. Every door she had opened in her career suddenly slammed shut. Recruiters would call, colleagues would whisper, LinkedIn profiles would be scrutinized. Reputation, she realized too late, was fragile. Actions echo, even when you think nobody is watching. Packing the last of her belongings, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflective elevator wall. For the first time, she saw not the confident executive, but someone blinded by entitlement. Someone who underestimated the consequences of a single moment. She had thought she controlled her morning, her space, her career, but the elevator proved her wrong. Marcus, on the other hand, returned to his office, reviewing lease documents for the next floor expansion. He didn't need to make a scene. He didn't need to announce his authority. His actions and the building's silent rules spoke louder than any words. Weeks later, the lease renewal was finalized, but with new, ironclad terms. Quarterly diversity and inclusion training, annual accountability reports, and clauses allowing termination if discrimination complaints were filed. The message was clear. Respect isn't optional. It's mandatory. Anna Mercer's LinkedIn profile now listed her as seeking new opportunities. Her colleagues gave polite, neutral answers when contacted by recruiters. Every professional connection felt the ripple of the elevator event, the morning's confrontation, and the fallout that followed. In the Sterling Tower, Marcus continued his routine, arriving at 8:45 every morning, walking the marble floors, greeting staff, reviewing every detail. He did this not for prestige, but because he understood that culture is built through daily habits, small actions, and respect extended to everyone who walks through the doors. Anna had learned her lesson the hardest way possible. A moment of arrogance, a split-second decision, and the universe had a way of balancing itself. Respect is the baseline. Ignore it, and you pay the price. The building continued to hum with life. Elevators rose and fell, footsteps echoed, deals were signed, but the memory of the morning in the lobby, the hand, the button, the pause, would echo in Sterling Tower for years, a quiet reminder that how you treat others when you think it doesn't matter is when it matters most. The Sterling Tower rose above Michigan Avenue, a monument of steel, glass, and ambition. Inside, life moved as it always had. Footsteps on marble floors, the soft hum of elevators, conversations blending with the aroma of coffee. But for Anna Mercer, nothing would ever feel the same. She had walked out of HR, carrying the cardboard box of her belongings, each step heavier than the last. The elevator ride to the lobby felt like a descent into a world that no longer included her. Every mirrored wall reflected a version of herself she barely recognized. Confident but arrogant, entitled but blind to consequences. Meanwhile, Marcus Ellery returned to his office on the 47th floor. The penthouse was bright, open, filled with the city's skyline in every direction. He reviewed lease agreements, signed documents for expansions, and coordinated meetings for new properties across the Midwest. Success was measured in floors, offices, and deals, but Marcus knew the real measure was far subtler: how people treated one another when they thought nobody was watching. Weeks later, the lease renewal with Linton and Gray Consulting was finalized. The agreement included new provisions Marcus insisted on: quarterly diversity and inclusion training, annual accountability reports, and a clause allowing him to terminate the lease if credible complaints of discrimination arose. The message was clear: respect in this building isn't negotiable. Inside Sterling Tower, whispers of the morning elevator event had become part of the lore. Staff told colleagues, security mentioned it to office managers. The story wasn't gossip, it was a lesson. Arrogance and bias carry real, immediate consequences. Anna had learned her lesson the hardest way possible. Her reputation followed her. Recruiters asked questions. Former colleagues gave neutral, cautious references. The professional world, she realized, was smaller than she had imagined. One micro moment, one hand raised, one elevator button pressed, had echoed far beyond her control. For Marcus, it was just another day. He arrived at 8:45 sharp, walked the marble floors, greeted Marcus the doorman, Teresa at security, and Paulo at the coffee cart. Nothing in his routine changed, but everything had changed. The culture of the building, the expectations of tenants, and the way respect was measured had all been recalibrated. The lesson was clear. You never know who holds the keys, who signs the documents, or whose respect you might need tomorrow. It isn't about power, rank, or wealth. It's about recognizing humanity in every interaction, even the smallest ones. Elevators, hallways, parking lots, these micro moments reveal character more than boardrooms ever will. Anna's mistake had become a cautionary tale, but Marcus didn't savor it. He didn't need to. The event had done the work itself. He let consequences unfold naturally, proving that accountability doesn't need drama. It needs clarity, patience, and presence. The elevators continued to rise and fall, carrying hundreds of people every day. Deals were signed, meetings held, and the city outside carried on unaware of the small but pivotal moments that shaped lives inside the tower. Marcus watched it all from his office, thinking occasionally about that morning in the lobby. He thought about the hand she raised, the button she pressed, and the split second when arrogance collided with consequence. He smiled faintly, not with pleasure, but with the quiet understanding that lessons, once learned, last forever. And now here's the thing. In life, every interaction counts. How you treat people when you think it doesn't matter is when it matters most. Respect isn't a privilege, it's the baseline. The floor beneath every professional interaction, every relationship, every decision you make. Ignore it, and consequences will find you. Pay attention, and doors open, literally and figuratively. If this event hit you hard and you want to see more intense, real-life moments where choices and consequences collide, comment below where you're watching from and subscribe. Tomorrow's event is even bigger, and you don't want to miss it.